Hello, everybody. This is Isaac Ashby, and welcome to this live video. Well, today we are going to be building a mechanical hand. Oh, just one sec. I forgot something. Okay, I'm back. Oh, sorry about that, everybody. I'm roasting here, and I had my fan on, and I was afraid you couldn't hear me, so I had to run and turn my fan off. But we're back. So today I'm going to do an actual STEAM activity that you can do for your kids that is super fun and super educational. So this is the mechanical hand. This is really fun. The kids love it. And it's a great way to introduce body mechanics and STEAM thinking. So let's get to it. So the things that we need to build a mechanical hand are, first off, we'll need a piece of cardboard. Mine is about 5 inches by 7 inches. We'll need a couple of straws. You may only need one depending on how big your mechanical hand ends up being. You will need a hot glue gun, complete with hot glue. You will need some string. I have, the light's kind of funky on this, but this is a bright green string that I like to use. It's like a masonry line. You will also need scissors for cardboard. I have these super heavy duty cardboard scissors. If not, just whatever you can use to cut the cardboard. We'll only be doing limited cardboard cutting, so nothing amazing. You will need a pencil, a push pin, just one of these little push pins that you stick in maps, a ruler, and finally, some duct tape. Yes, my friends, duct tape fixes everything. Okay, so let's get started. First thing we need to do is we need to take our cardboard and we need to do a little cutting and trimming. Now I'm going to keep mine the same size as it normally is, but I want to make a line, or I want to cut the cardboard right down the middle, about half to 2/3 the way down the cardboard. I'll show you what I mean in just a second. So, and when I say cardboard as I cut, when I say cardboard, I mean corrugated cardboard, not the flimsy cereal box stuff, but the actual really thick corrugated cardboard. Okay, see that? I'm going to hold it up. So I've got mine a little over halfway, maybe 2/3, maybe a little less than 2/3 the way down. Something about that. Doesn't need to be perfect. Okay, then I am going to trim the fingers. So I'm going to, well, I'll just have to show you. So I just round them off just for effect. You don't have to necessarily round them off, but fingers are round, right? So I like to make my fingers round. Or at least they're round at the ends. A little more trimming. Okay, just like that. Whoops, I'll flip it around. One more thing is this line, the two fingers, they rub against each other, as you can probably hear on the video. So I'm going to cut a little bit off of the inside of this, one of these fingers, just so that there's some room and they don't rub. Then I'm going to pull that off, just like that. Okay, so here's the finished product. Next, I am going to take a pencil and I am going to draw a line all the way across with my ruler. Just like this. Okay, then I'm going to make 2 more lines about They need to be about this. Well, I'll show you in just a sec what I'm talking about. Okay. So there's what it looks like so far. Lines, they're not the straightest lines I've ever made in forever, but that's okay. So that's now what we need to do is we need to take our pin and make a whole bunch of little holes. We need to score this cardboard so that it will fold in the right place. So what I'm doing, and maybe I'm going to tilt my screen down so you can see. Let me move the mouse. Okay, so I'm going to take, let me move over my glue gun so I don't burn myself again. I'm going to take now and make a whole bunch of holes along each one of these lines. Now this will serve to score it so that I can bend right along those lines. So this will just take me a minute. If you're watching with me live, and maybe I will tell a joke. What do you call a boomerang that doesn't come back? A stick. Oh, that was a great one. So there were these three kids. I'll tell you another joke. There are these three kids, and they were hiking along in the forest, and they come upon this log. Now this this hole, and this hole was black, and it was big, and it was deep. They could tell it was deep, but they didn't know how deep it was. So they decided to throw a rock in there to see if they could hear it hit to see how deep it was. So they throw in a big rock, and nothing. They don't hear it hit the bottom. And they're just amazed at this point. And so they go and throw a bigger rock. Still nothing. They go and find the biggest rock, toss it in there, but to no avail. They hear nothing. Finally, they throw in this great big, they go and they run around in the forest and they find this big, it was like a railroad tie. And they go and they throw this railroad tie into the hole. And no sooner did they throw the railroad tie into the hole when a goat runs and jumps in the hole. Well, the boys are sitting there puzzling over this, wondering why in the world a goat would run and jump in the hole when this farmer on a horse comes up, or this rancher guy, and he says, "Hey, boys, have you seen my goat?" And they said, "Well, yeah, mister, your goat just jumped in this hole." And the farmer or the rancher said, "That couldn't have been my goat because my goat is chained to a railroad tie." Ba-doom. Okay, there you go. Cheap, lame jokes while I do a tedious task live. Okay, so there we go. Now that I've got, let me show you what that looks like. So now you can see all the little holes that are on my lines. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold these. I'm going to use the ruler just to make sure I get a good fold. And I'm going to put it right below there. And then I'm going to lift up and fold along my score. This is a great tip for working with cardboard. If you ever want to fold cardboard reliably against the grain, then score it with a pin. Okay, now you can see how my fingers are moving. Now let's attach them to string and straws so that we can make the mechanical hand part of it like this. Okay, so we're getting close. So what we need to do now is we need to cut straw pieces that are slightly smaller than each little section. So I'm going to measure and cut 1, 2, 3 for each finger. Okay. So I'm going to quickly do that. Okay. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. There, so now I've got them here, and now I'm going to glue them with the hot glue gun. I'm going to glue them into place, and I'll show you where that goes. And my glue gun is quite squeaky, just so you know. I'm sure you will notice on the sound. Oh, I've lost one. One of my straws just flew off the table. I'll have to go retrieve it. Or I'll just cut another one. Okay. So that's what we're looking for. There's one side. Now I'm going to repeat for the second finger. Oh, my glue gun's getting jammed. Now, this is a great activity. When I've taught this before in live, this is one of my most popular activities. Kids love to do the mechanical hand. So, if you just jumped on, or you can always get the replay. We will make sure to post the replay so you can see this in its entirety here on Facebook. Okay. There we go. Okay, so that's what we've got so far. We're getting close. Now I need to make the centerpiece and then the two branches. So I am going to take my second straw and I am going to snip some pieces. As I said before, if you're just joining me now, we will have this up for replay so you can watch the entire thing with your kids. Okay. Okay. Now this next part is meant to funnel the strings together. Okie dokie. And now I'm going to there we have it. With my straws in place, just like this, sometimes when the fingers try to close, maybe you'll notice here that the top corners of the straws tend to hit each other. So sometimes what I like to do, this one isn't a problem, but sometimes what you can do, I did it on this one. I'm not going to do it with this one that I'm here, but if you can see closely, I trimmed the top little corners here so that the fingers the tops wouldn't interfere with each other. Okay, but I don't need to do that right now. So now I am going to feed the string through, well, let me get a clean edge. And I'm going to thread it through. I'm not going to thread it through the last one, and I'll show you why in just a second. Then I'm going to snip it off here. It's a little extra, but that's okay. And then before anything, I am going to glue this down. So I'm going to put a big chunk of glue right next to the straw. And I'm going to fold this end over and onto the glue. And then I will use my, oops, there's the glue gun right there. I will use the little push pin to make sure that that string is very well glued in. And I will put a little more dab of glue on there. Now this brings up a really good safety hint, something that I typically do, but obviously I failed to do that time, is your glue gun should never be within arm's reach. It's just so that you don't burn yourself like I just, although I didn't really burn myself, I just touched the part of it that was warm and it kind of stuck to me. But when working with glue guns, especially when kids are working with glue guns, you want them to put them well out of reach so that whenever they move their arms around and their elbows, they don't get it stuck or they don't get burned. Okay, now let's feed the other end in. Notice how I did not thread this last piece yet. I'm going to thread that when I have both strings together. So I'm going to now thread this through. This piece of string is curved and doesn't want to go straight through. There we go. Perfect. Okay, now I'm going to snip it and glue it. Okay, I'm going to put another dollop of glue here on the end just to make sure that it's stuck there. Okay, now I'm going to make sure to give that time to cool before I pull on them. But now when I thread this last one, I'm going to hold these two together and thread them together. I have found that threading when one's already in there doesn't work so well, but when they're separate, there we go. So now I am going to kind of pull them tight, but not really tight, and then tie a knot so that they're at the same tightness. Okay, so there you have it. Now, there is the mechanical hand. So while we let this cool, now to make this a STEAM project, I mean, right now, this is just a tutorial on how to make a mechanical hand, right? You can find this tutorial or things like it on the internet. But what I like to do with kids, because what I like to do with kids with this activity is to give them a challenge. So I teach them a skill. In this case, I taught you how to make a mechanical hand. And now when you pull it, it moves just like this. So in this tutorial, I showed you how to make a mechanical hand, and then I would give the kids a challenge to build on top of it. So what that means is I'm going to give them a challenge, and I'm going to say, all right, your challenge is to build a mechanical hand or modify this one that can pick up an object. And so you can see how right now it's only good for waving. You can't really pick anything up with it. But it's up to the kids to use their brains and to figure out how they can modify this or build another one that's with these similar concepts of that can pick something up. So that would be the STEAM project part of it. This is how I generally approach STEAM projects. Is I teach a principle, and then I give a challenge, and then after the challenge, we kind of go over the challenge, and I call it the debrief. I know that sounds like very official, like military, but The debrief is where we kind of go over the challenge, how it went, and we talk about what went wrong and what went right. And then I give them critique. So that's generally how I approach STEAM projects. And so this one is, as I've said, is one of my favorite and one of the kids' favorites to do, especially because I had one activity where my challenge was to pick something up that was 3 feet away. So they had to attach this to a pole as well as figure out how to attach an opposable digit. And that was a great activity for them. So, oh, and one more thing that I didn't mention, now that this is cool and that I can wave this one doesn't really need it, which is surprising. Most of the time what happens when you make these things is that one digit will bend a little bit more than the other one. And that can be problematic. So that's what the duct tape is for. So like with this one, what you do is you find the digit. This one, when I was flexing it, see this finger, or what, sorry, backwards. See this finger that has the duct tape on it? This duct tape, or this digit right here, was too loose, and it was flexing far faster and more deeply than the other digit. So I put a layer of duct tape on the back of the joint that was flexing too much, and that stiffened it up and made it so that now they both flex evenly. See that? But with this one, I didn't have to do any of that. They both flex pretty well, actually. I'm pretty pleased with how this one turned out. So, well, there you have it. That is the mechanical hand. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you get a chance to make this with your kids. Now, I want to remind you, if you do attempt to make a mechanical hand with your kids, post it in the group. Post it on our Facebook page. And yeah, we'd love to see what you're doing. I would love to see what things you try out with your kids. So thanks for watching. I've had a blast today building the mechanical hand with you, and I will see you next week. And if you are coming in at the end of this broadcast, we made a mechanical hand. It will be up on Facebook for you to watch the replay to learn how to build this with your kids along with the STEAM challenge, which is a great and very popular activity. So thanks, guys. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next week. Bye, guys.